Do you think that Jack Barry is understanding of the role that he's in and is appreciating, what he's able to do when he can do it like he did on Saturday?
Well, he's a great teammate. We learned that from him real fast last year. And we also learned that whenever needed and called upon, he'll be ready for you. So that he kind of got thrown to the wolves last year a couple times. We threw him in games, the middle of games where we asked him to save us, and we threw him in on surprise starts last year, and he always responded. So when an All-American goalie comes in and adds depth to your program like Kyle did, you kind of shift your responsibilities a little bit around on to how many games other guys are going to play. And in Jack's case, this was what had happened. I would like to have gotten him in there earlier than the seventh game of the season, but the opportunity wasn't there for it. So I thought Saturday was a perfect game for him. We needed him, and we played really well in front of him, and when he needed to make the saves for us, he made them. So he's a phenomenal teammate. He came in here as a walk-on and was a huge part of our team last year, and he will continue to be this year and in his remaining years here.
Continuing along goalie theme, I would imagine Kyle's got an interesting week ahead of him with, external things going on playing his old team. How do you think he'll handle that? He seems like a pretty mature guy that would kind of tune that out.
St. Lawrence coming into town as soon as he knew he was coming here. He looked at the schedule and saw that. So he's been prepared for it. He's still got a lot of friends, and he had 3 great years at that university. So there's a lot of emotions attached to the weekend. Anyone that gets to play in front of their, old team or go to your old place where you grew up, whatever it is, there's always some emotions attached to it, or extra emotions attached to it. And he's been looking forward to this one, for the right reasons. He's a very mature kid. He knows the importance of the games for us. It's not going to be a Kyle versus St. Lawrence. It's the Badgers versus St. Lawrence, and he'll be focused in on making sure he's doing everything he can this week to whether they're distractions or not. There's an extra excitement when you get to play your old team. But he's a very mature kid that understands what's at stake, and he'll be ready to play.
Andy, in the back.
Tony, when you played, you had emotions, changing teams and seeing old teammates. What was it like for you? Did you find yourself anxious? Did you find yourself distracted? What was your experience like?
In all honesty, you don't sleep for 4 or 5 days leading up to it because you're so excited to get back. You want to have a good performance. My first trade from the Rangers to the Kings, my first game back in Madison Square Garden, I remember leading up to that how you almost want to say, well, I want to show them that they should miss me, and this is why they're going to miss me, because I want to make sure I have a good game. But there's a lot of excitement leading up to it. Everybody's calling to welcome you back into town. There's lots of distractions and things that you can't control that will come into play with it. But I think it's going to be exciting for Kyle. I always thought it was exciting to go back, to play in Chicago at home, or going back to play against your former teammates. And I know Kyle is like I said, a really mature kid that enjoyed his experience in St. Lawrence very much. He's got a ton of friends and people back there that are still big parts of his life, and I know he'll want to have a good showing this weekend.
How's Peter Tischke doing?
I don't think he'll practice today. I don't think he got dung in the game. There were a couple guys banged up this morning from our reports. We probably will keep off the ice today, but I think that's pretty typical. At this time of the year, the guys that are a little bit banged up, you give them Monday off and see if they'll be ready for Tuesday. So I'm not positive he'll be in there this weekend, but pretty sure the way Peter is and where he's at right now that he'll be in practice, hopefully tomorrow, if not tomorrow, Wednesday, and be ready for this weekend.
Getting back to something we talked about after the game Saturday, the 5 defensemen that were left playing after Peter went out, they seemed like they didn't panic. They didn't worry about having to go out there with a different guy or in a different situation or more often. Is that a different sense from your defensive core this year than last year in general?
I think this is the first time This year we've been forced to do that. That happened a lot last year. We lost defensemen getting kicked out of games, I think in back-to-back games last year a couple times to injuries, and sometimes because, we didn't play all of them regularly. And that group, we may have overplayed Tischke and Linhart at times last year. But this year we don't, our depth is really good. The pairs have been really good. The young guys that have come in have been very solid and are playing like experienced players. So this was the first time we were forced to go to 5D. They handled it great. I thought Wyatt Kelnick, was the one in particular that stepped up and he played like an All-American. And for a young kid to recognize the fact that we probably lost our best defenseman and we're going to have to play without him for the last 2+ periods, somebody's got to step up here and take on that responsibility. He handled it really, really well.
Wyatt's a little bit older than the two other freshmen. Have you seen that out of him, that he's able to, been through some of those battles in the USHL for a few years, as opposed to the other guys?
And you're right. Having the extra, year of experience, playing another year in the USHL really helped him. His maturity and his confidence. I think Oz just, again, I can tell you over and over again how much Mark Osicki means to the confidence and development of young defensemen. And he just, every time you give him a defenseman, he finds ways to get the most out of him. I 3 defensemen playing in the games that we've played so far at BC, at Merrimack, 2 games against Ohio State, against the Hartford checking team, against Michigan Tech, 2 games against Northern. And those young D look like experienced defensemen. And that's with one real practice leading into these games. And that's a great compliment to what Mark has done on how he's been able to get these guys ready to play and perform at that level.
Got 8 of the next 10 at home. I think 10 of the next 14 at home. This is a good stretch for you here to kind of make some hay before you get to the semester break, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a good stretch. Last year for us, the home record wasn't what we wanted it to be. It was a lot of discussion over the summer and the start of the year on our focus of making sure that we are a better home team this year. So this is a nice challenge for us that way. Some of the parts last year were some of the distractions of playing at home. Some of the expectations as we were climbing last year, we thought we had to be a different team and be a more wide open team, or we had to score, or we had to perform differently at home. So hopefully the learning things that the mistakes that we made last year at home ice, this is a good challenge for us to be ready. And I think the maturity of our team is something that will be tested in this stretch just because of that. But yeah, we got some great teams coming in. North Dakota's coming in after St. Lawrence, and then get back into Big Ten play after that. So lots of good hockey in front of us, and fun hockey.